Hello and welcome to Angry Andy Reviews. This is my review for Prey.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy. Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews. Angry Andy Reviews.
Don't make me destroy you.
So, Prey is a sort of pseudo prequel, I guess, to the original Predator movie. It is set some 300 years ago on the Great Plains of America, and we follow a group of people, the Comanche Nation, as they deal with what is presented towards them. So yeah, I guess in a way it is kind of a prequel, although it doesn't really feel like a prequel. It has its own sort of identity, really. We do get a few references to the first Predator film, the original one starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, which does feel a bit tacked on, I will admit. It kind of makes you sort of raise an eyebrow, go, okay, then fine. But what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to spoil anything major within this, because I think everyone should watch it on its own merits, on your own merits. Like I said, this film is set 300 years ago. It follows a young woman, Naru, who is a Comanche warrior, or at least she's aiming to be one. And we see her sort of trying to follow the legendary hunters within her tribe and to try and sort of be one of them. So we see her sort of like doing a bit of training montage and everything. And then a mysterious happening comes about, and she realizes that there is something out there that is stalking them. What I really like about this film is it gets the tone fucking right. For the first time in ages, for the first time since the original Predator film, we get a decent tone, we get a decent setting, we get a decent feel of, this stalking element, this hunting element. It goes quite dark, and I don't mean dark in terms of like, what happens to people, being horrible or anything. I mean, there are horrible things that happen to people, but I mean just in terms of the lighting, it keeps everything really dark, claustrophobic at times, which is somewhat of an incredible feat, given that this, like I said, is set on the Great Plains of America, within sort of like this wild landscape, and yet we do get these really claustrophobic, tight moments. I mean, I've got to give a lot of credit here to the director, Dan Trachtenberg. I've probably said that wrong, but he's crafted something that utilizes such a vast open landscape and keeps it so damn tight, so well contracted and focused in on the central characters and focused in on the Predator itself. And going on from that, we do see this weird sort of like parallel between the Predator and Naru, who's played brilliantly by Amber Midthunder. We see them sort of adapting to the environment, sort of learning how to do things better. So the Predator, for example, starts off small with smaller animals and then builds his way up to a point where he comes across this tribe, and he comes across a group of French people, which is hilarious, and probably one of the best scenes in the film as well, when he comes across these French people. But in that same breath, like I said, that parallel, we get Naru, who is desperate to be one of those who can go out and hunt. She wants to be a warrior. She wants to be able to do things that the other members of the tribe can do. It doesn't really dive too much into sort of like why she wants this. We see a little bit of what her mother's doing, what other members of the tribe are doing, the other females in the tribe are doing, but it doesn't like nail you on the head with it. It's quite a simple sort of thought process. You see her looking around and thinking, this is not for me, I want to be doing something else, I want to be out there hunting. And she has a lovely faithful dog as well, which everybody loves. And for me, everything is paced perfectly well. It's about an hour and 40 minutes long, this film, and everything is paced perfectly, through this horror element. And there are some decent horror elements in this film, which I was quite surprised at. I thought this was just going to be an all-out action movie. but there are some decent, quiet, small, like I said, really tight horror elements in this film which utilize this vast landscape and really play to, the ultra darkness. It's just natural lighting. There's no streetlights or anything. This is in the middle of the plains 300 years ago, and when it's dark and it's pitch black, and it plays to it absolutely perfectly. Moving on from that, I'm gushing over the way this is shot, the cinematography and everything, but I think it's well written. I wouldn't say it's perfectly well written. There are a few sort of lines, like I said, the callbacks or the call forwards, weirdly enough, don't really sort of work for me. Some of the dialogue is a bit cheap, I think. It's very sort of Hollywoodish, which is strange, and I have heard that there is a Comanche language sort of release, audio track for this, and I wonder whether it might actually play a bit better listening to that as opposed to modern American dialogue, which kind of throws you off a little bit. But coming away from that, the action and the setups, I think, are where this film absolutely fucking wins. The action is blood-soaked, but it's incredibly inventive as well. We see the Predator here using so many different elements to attack his prey, to control what's going on, and how to, destroy people. I mean, he literally destroys over a dozen people throughout this movie, and it's every single one, every single kill, if you like, every single trophy he obtains is done in a very stylistically, very graphic, and very brutal way. But you'd expect nothing less from a Predator. I think over the last few years we focused too much on predators fighting other predators, or fighting other aliens, rather than focusing on what the predator actually wants to achieve, and that is to become something greater. And yet humans, all right, seem to be the ones that are able to absolutely just put pain to them. But yeah, I think overall, I think this film succeeds on the action, on the horror, and on the performances, as well as the quality in the direction and the cinematography. I think the performances overrule sort of like the writing. I think you really get a sense of these people, especially Naru, trying to understand. They don't fully understand what they're dealing with. They come across other people that they've never met before, and you get a sense of what it is to live within that world and be faced with something completely otherworldly. I mean, they treat it as though it's like what does she call it? Thunderbird or something like that, and you get a sense that this plays into sort of like their a religious sort of destiny, if you like. Though we don't really get too much into it. There were a few elements I thought we could play a bit more into this, but they don't really go that far. But for a Predator franchise, similar to the Alien franchise, really, for the Predator franchise, which has it's been a stumbling trudge for the last 20 odd years, I think, since Predator 2, really. It's never really sort of managed to reach the heights of the original Predator. And while this doesn't reach, for me, quite the heights of the original Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it is up there. It does just about enough to probably warrant another watch, another repeat watch. And this may well be the catalyst for better films going forward if it tracks well, if it performs well. I'm not necessarily saying we should get a sequel.
Cause let's face it, baby, these days, you gotta have a sequel. Ah! Ah!
I think what we should possibly get is something along the lines of, I'm thinking, where we visit other time periods. Why not the Middle Ages? Why not, Japan, samurais, all this. There are so many different options that we could approach, different eras, Roman times. Is there a Roman legion that comes across a predator? This film opens so many doors purely because of how well crafted it is, and yet how tight it is. You can do so much going forward, and I would very much like to see that. This film, in summation, was such a satisfying watch. I didn't really have much I wasn't really sort of bothered about it. I knew I was going to watch it, but based on what we've had before, the last Predator film, what was it called? The Predator. God awful. A waste of my time. But this has invigorated me in terms of the Predator franchise, and I'm looking forward to see if we get anything further. Overall, this film is a solid 8 out of 10, and I am really pleased, and I'm looking forward to watching it again. But yeah, after years of disappointment, we finally have something to fucking celebrate. We finally have an exciting Predator movie where the Predator kicks ass, and we get someone who is able to, craft an inventive way to take him down. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Solid 8 out of 10. The writing could have been better, but you know what? If it bleeds, we can fucking kill it.